penultimate class, we talked about class. Today we'll talk about database. I think last week we used last week to debug codes. So today we talk about database. Then in our next class, we will now use this Python class with the database that we're going to look at today to see how you can store information in your database, how you can fetch information from your database and the likes. But let's discuss what a database is. A database is where data is being stored. So in application, we have users. I think before now we've been storing all our users here inside this dictionary. I think there's another one for to do. Or is it this? Okay, for to do. So instead of storing it in this dictionary, if you observe, you know that if you terminate the Flask app, if you stop it from running here, you will observe that you're going to lose all the data you've stored there. If this stops running, I don't know if you observed it.
Like the not registered, right?
Yes, everything you've registered with. You will. So instead of that, you want a data that persists. This is where database comes in. With database, you can store your information somewhere such that even when you stop your Flask app and you run it, the data will still be there. It will still be there. So that's the status of a database. Let's proceed. We have two types of databases. We have SQL databases and no SQL databases. SQL stands for Structured Query Language. SQL databases, they follow some standard, and it is the most common. It is the commonest type of databases, and I like it because it's well structured. SQL databases, they are generally well structured. From its name, Structured Query Language. Structured Query Language. So they follow some standard. And something about SQL is because of something called relational databases. Relational databases store information in a table. This is what I mean by table. Insert table, just like table. So we can have a table for users. Let's say this table contains the user's information. So this can be for the first name of the user, for the last name of the user, for the email of the user, for the password of the user. So you're going to store information in this table. We can have another table for, let's say, to-dos, whereby we store all of the to-dos there. So the idea of a table is that it stores a particular type of data. For instance, this is for users. To-do is for another type of data, like for to-dos. Do you understand this?
Yes.
So, something about relational databases is that there's something called primary keys. Primary keys are unique keys that uniquely identify each item there. What I'm saying is this. In this case, you can set the email as the primary key. What this means is that no two rows must have the same email address. A primary key is just that column in your database that cannot be repeated, and it cannot be empty. It cannot be empty. So a primary key is that column in your database or in your table that uniquely identify each row. In other words, it cannot be repeated. If, let's say, this is Taye Abidakun, and this is Taye Abidakun gmail.com, I cannot have that same value. Also, even if this person also bears Taye Abidakun, I cannot have that same Taye Abidakun gmail.com here. So in that case, we call that the primary key. Any questions so far?
Good question.
Okay. So uh, now what we are saying under relational databases. Let's say we have another table here for today's insert table to this. These are the tasks you want to do. That's a task, and let's call this task ID. This is the primary key. This is the primary key of this table. Each table in a relational database should have a primary key. So let's say this is it. Let's say this is jump. But the question is, okay, let's say this is one. I'm coming. The question is, who is eating? Who is jumping? Because two persons can have the same task. The assignment I gave you, I asked you to create a place for users to register, users to log in, and users to be able to add their own to-dos. That means that in my account, I can add my own to-do. Another person can log in into his own account and also add his own to-do. Another person else can also log in into our own account and add our own to-do. So, if I have it here, the question will be, who owns this it? Who owns this particular task? Do you get it? Do you understand this? Please, do you get? Are you with me?
Yes, I'm with you. Yes.
Okay. So the question will be, who owns this particular task? So this is where the foreign key now comes in. The idea of foreign key is that you want this table to be able to contain information from another table. That is, you want this task, this is for, let's not make this board, let's make this board. So you want this information to contain something that will relate with this particular table, such that I want to know that this it belongs to who owns this particular task. So you're going to add another column here. You can call that user email. So since we said that the email is going to be the primary key, so we now come here and put the email of the user there. So what you're saying is that it is this user that owns this particular task. So this user email corresponds to this. That means that I cannot come here and have abc@gmail.com if there is no abc@gmail.com in the users table. It must first exist. There must be a user with a particular email address before I can make use of it. Yeah. So what I'm just saying is that this it belongs to this user that owns abc@gmail.com, and if it does not exist in the users table, then there will be no user with that, and that's not going to be what we are trying to do. What we are trying to do is that we want to link this particular task with a particular user so that we can say that this user owns this particular task. Do you understand?
Yeah, okay. Yes.
Any question to this part?
No, continue.
Okay. So this user email is known as a foreign key here. It's known as a foreign key. A lot of times, a foreign key is usually the primary key from its own table. In this case, the email is the primary key. So this email is the primary key of this table, but here is the foreign key. So a lot of times, the primary key from the table will be the foreign key in another table. And also, in case this changes to another thing, now, this is why we don't use email as the primary key most times. We don't want to use email because it's possible for me to change my email address. It means that I need to come here. Let's say this is taya@gmail.com. I'm coming. Let's say this is taya@gmail.com. Peradventure, I lost access to this email address and I changed my email to something else. Let's say I called it ta@gmail.com. It means that I need to come here and change this also. Do you get it?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Because if it's not changed here, it means that it is this user taya@gmail.com that no longer exists that owns this task, which is not what you want to do. Right. So for that reason, we don't usually make email as the primary key. we generate a unique column. Oftentimes, timing is usually the first column. Let's put it at the beginning. Insert column to the right, to the left, I think. You can call it the user ID. In fact, you are not going to get the user ID from the user. The user may not even know that he or she has an ID. What you just do is that immediately a new data is being inserted in a row, you are telling the system to fill this itself. It will handle it on its own. For instance, let's say there's nothing here, there's nothing here. So you get the first name, the last name, the email and password from the user, and you insert it here. Don't worry, we practicalize this together. So you get the first name, last name, email, and password from the user. Once you get those information from the user, you insert it here. Taye, let's say Ojo. Let's say Taye Ojo at gmail.com. Password. This password would have been hashed. You know, we've talked about password hashing. So you've hashed the password. Let's assume you've hashed the password. Before this can be inserted here successfully, the system itself will generate a unique number for this. If you insert another data here, you are not getting this user. You say? What do you say?
Tell the unique number for the user ID.
There will be.
That is the primary key.
Yes, there will be unique number. Yes, you're right. It's going to be the primary key. So, but you are not getting it from the user, because if you are getting it from the user, it's possible for two users to supply the same value. So you're not getting from the database itself is the one handling the primary key. Do you get this? Immediately you're about to insert a new data there, the database itself will put a new value here. So you are not getting it from the user, you're getting other values. Database itself, same as this task ID also. Once you're about to insert a new values in this particular table, it will fill these ones itself. So it is this ID now that you will now put here. So the user does not even know that this is Isoamon ID. So the user cannot even change it. The user cannot change the ID. So even if the user changes the email address tomorrow, it does not affect other tables. Do you understand this? Let's practice it together. So. Okay, if you want to create a database, I would call it, let's call it Flask. Flask app. Create the database. Let's say we have two tables. This is for the students table. Student user. Let's call it users table. What are the number of columns that we want there? 1, 2, 3, 4. Then with the user ID, which is 5. So I want 5 columns. You create it. The first column is the user ID. Set it user ID. The second column is the first name, last name, email, and password. So let's set all of them. First name, last name, email, password. This user ID is going to be an integer. We set it as an integer. The database itself will be the one to handle it though. Set it as an integer. But you know the first name, these are texts. These are texts. So you are not going to set them as integers. These ones, they will not be integers. Watch out, various characters. Various characters they are characters of varying lengths. That is, someone's first name may be 5 characters. Another person's first name may be 7 characters. Another person's first name may be 10 characters. For instance, My own first name is. You said?
I said okay.
Yeah, okay. So this is Vacha. If it's long text, let's say you're expecting a long text, you can set it to be text. But first name, last name, they are short. So Vacha is okay. Now this is the length of the characters. Last this was the maximum number of characters that you're expecting from this. So you can set it to be maybe 25 characters. I don't know. Some people's first name can be so long, maybe 30. Emails are not so long. Now for password, remember that you're going to hash the password. Do you observe that for the user, the one we did earlier in one of our previous classes, after hashing the password, you observe that it gets so long.
Yes.
So you don't want to use something like 30 here because it's most likely it's going to, after hashing, it's most likely to be more than 30 characters. So here you can set it to be maybe 100 or 150. Fine. Just want to ensure that whatever value you put here, the number of characters will not be longer than that, because if it's longer than that, let's say we set it to be 30, and after hashing it generated a, let's say, 40 long characters or set of characters, only the first 30 characters will come here, the remaining 10 will be chopped off. Do you get it? It will be chopped off, which is not something that you'll not be able to log in because it's no longer the same stuff. Yeah. So you want something long here. Then you want to tell the system that I want it to be the one to handle this user ID. So you come here, you set it to auto increment, that it automatically increase it. You check this. So when you are done, then you can, this email, if you want it to be unique, you come here, you set it to be unique. That these two users cannot have the same email address. You set it to be unique. So you set it to be primary key, auto increments. This one you want it to be unique. Those are two users who don't have the same email. You can set this here. Then when you are done, you save it. So I've saved it now. Let's insert data in this table. So to insert the data, you come here. You can just click on this to get it for you, or you can type it also. Say insert into what's the name of the table? User. This should be users though. Oftentimes table names are they're actually pluralized, but since it's singular here, just leave it like that. Insert into user. So what are the columns we want to insert into? I want to insert into the first name, last name, email, password. Thank you. Now the values. The order matters here. The first goes to the first, second goes to the second, third goes to the third, fourth goes to the fourth. So yeah. So here is it. So when I run this command now, it will insert it into this table. So when you check the table now, you will see it there. You can see that it has automatically filled this for you, the user ID, even though we do not supply it. The database itself handle that part on its own. Any question?
No, I understand.
Okay. If you want to fetch all the users, you can say select all from user. So it's selecting all the users. If you want to delete a user, you can say delete from user, where user ID. Set delete from user, where Please, whenever you are running delete, always put the where clause, where user ID equals to 1. That is, I want to delete this part, the first user, this particular user, the user with this ID. This is how you can delete. But if you want to, I didn't run it because I don't want to delete it. Now, if you want to change, let's say I want to change the email of that user to another email address. Update. Set email. So you want to set email to, you're going to put the new email address that you want to set it to. So let's say I want it to be abc@gmail.com. Where, if you not put this where clause, the email of all your users will be changed to abc@gmail.com. Do you get it?
Yes.
The email of all your users will be changed to this, so you don't want that to happen. Where this condition must be told, that is, check where the user ID is 1. So the email address of the first user now becomes abc@gmail.com. This is it here. Any questions so far?
No question.
Okay.
Please, this PhD admin and SQL.
Is that?
The main SQL, what is it? This app also. I forgot the name. My SQL admin.
Okay, PHP my admin.
That SQL that we saw on the system.
Okay.
This one is more, PhD admin. I don't know how to put it. Between PhD admin and that.
I can't. I don't really get your question.
Like I forgot the name. That means my SQL. I forgot the name that we used to install on the system. Like who go to it? I know there's who go to it. You understand? And
Okay.
there is my SQL listener. You know there's my SQL listener. So I forgot the name.
Oh,
I saw this sometimes. It was on my former system.
okay. Okay. Maybe let me try to answer based on how much I understand your question.
That this one is okay.
I don't really get the question, but let me say. See this XAMPP? It has MySQL inside of it. So you get it. It has MySQL inside of it. That is why we are making it. Everything we are doing here is MySQL. Now for PHP, for PHP also, we are still interacting. Or when we did PHP, we made use of this same XAMPP to insert data into this same database. Into this database. Although for this, we are not going to make use of MySQL though. We're not going to make use of MySQL. We're going to make use of SQLite, so that we don't even need to install this. Sorry. So we don't even need to install XAMPP to make it work. We don't need to. So for debug, I'm showing you this. In fact, we're going to make use of something called ORM in the next class. Like I said, next class is going to be the last class of this program. So we're going to make use of ORM. Internally, the ORM will run these commands that we've written: insert, updates, but then it is going to make it easier for us to do. You don't need to write, let's say you want to delete now, you don't need to say delete from users where user ID equals to something. You don't need to. With ORM now, it makes it easy because you're going to be writing Python codes instead of writing SQL codes. Do you get it? Okay. But internally, those Python codes will be translated to this. So that is why I taught you classes and constructors. in the second to the last class. Because when we're going to make use of the Python ORM, we're going to be making use of Python classes. From the class, we create an object. That object will now be the one we're going to make use of to interact with the database. So we see how to do that in the next class. But internally, we are going to run these commands internally. Any question? Do you have any question? Are you with me? So we end it here today.
I'm here.
Alright, okay.
Yes, my next one.
Alright. So we end it here today. Now we continue in the next class. Thank you so much. Have a good night test.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
My regards to the other
I
student.
will send that too.
You said my regards to the other students.
I will send the screenshot of that.
Alright.
Alright. I will send the screenshot to you.
Alright, thank you.